Hello and welcome back to Closely Observed English. Here's another C1 Advanced Writing Feedback video. This time we're looking at a review. So let's go straight in. And at the top of the page just there, we have our rubric. You see the following advertisement in a film magazine. Reviews wanted, best film ever. We're planning to produce a set of DVDs of the 10 best films of all time. Said there's a review of your favorite film. What was it about? What made it so good? Why should we include it in the set of DVDs? The best reviews will be included with the set of DVDs. Wow, enticing. So it has to be about your favorite film. The content points then would be, what is the film about? That's the first one. What made it so good? And why should we include it in the set of DVDs? Interesting. So let's go in. We have a kind of title here, You Can Do It. Presumably that's the name of the film. My interest in educational and inspirational movies caused me to watch You Can Do It as a way of reawakening my motivation for achieving my aspirations in life. Since motivation is fleeting, I needed something to rejuvenate it. Choosing exactly this film made me thank myself a million times in a view of the fact that it really helped me change my behavior towards my responsibilities. Everyday activities suck out the life in us sometimes. We forget what drives us and immerse in responsibilities which don't bring us happiness or satisfaction. Not seldom, we find ourselves fulfilling someone else's ambition, feeling dissatisfied. You Can Do It helped me remember my dreams and the joy they sparked in me. Made in 2019, this film is modern and interesting. At the same time, it is thought provoking and conveys dramatic atmosphere. It is produced by Greg Miller and the plot unfolds in Palma de Mallorca. The movie depicts a strong woman determined to achieve all her dreams. Growing up in a small city, she haven't had the opportunity to fully express herself. However, having strong character, she fulfills her aspirations, overcoming the discrepancy between men and women. While appreciating the content of the movie, the audience's attention is taken by the incredible sound effects and dramatic plot twists. They build the tension even more, and the effect of every scene is enhanced by the music. Not to forget is the length of the film, which is ideal compared to other films in this genre. I would suggest including this movie in the set due to the fact that it's inspirational while being entertaining and mixes usefulness with pleasure successfully. In conclusion, I think that women empowerment should be one of our priorities since the misogyny is not completely wiped out from the face of Earth. I strongly recommend watching the film with concentration and absorbing the inspirational story to the fullest. Right, so the content. Do I feel, having read that review, that I know what the film was about? No, I don't, I'm afraid. Sorry. The only part that I can see that actually tells us what the film was about was just here, where we've got 3 sentences about the film in a very, very general sense. I mean, this could be almost any film. When it says, what was it about? That's where you start. Build up a description of the film without spoilers, but detailing who the character is, what their motivations are, and describe in general terms their story arc, but keep it specific enough so that people know what the film will be like. There's very little here. The movie depicts a strong woman determined to achieve all her dreams. Growing up in a small city, she haven't had the opportunity to fully express herself. However, having strong character, she fulfills her aspirations, overcoming the discrepancy between men and women. Doesn't tell me anything about the plot. Doesn't tell me what the film's really about. So that's not going to give us enough detail. What made it so good? We have, for some reason, incredible sound effects. Sound effects and soundtrack are very different. Sound effects would be the sound, for example, of an explosion, or even, if you've got a good Foley, um, claps, applause, clapping, things like that. Those are sound effects. The sound of a door slamming. Are they so good that your attention is taken by them? That would be a bad thing, actually. You don't want your attention to be taken by the sound effects. You want maybe the soundtrack, but you don't want that to interfere with your enjoyment of the film. So I wouldn't say that's something that would make it so good. Dramatic plot twists, we have no idea what those would be. So why would they be so good? Talking about the length of the film being ideal compared to other films in the genre, you don't even tell me if it's long or short. So again, I don't have anything to base my opinion on. So why should we include it in the set of DVDs? Okay, the empowerment of women is a good point. You could take that and run with it, but it's not really done enough. So in terms of the content, I would say that the content is kind of covered to an extent. So I'm going to go for a 3 there. I'll come back to kind of how you would rework this in a moment. In terms of communicative achievement, I would say that we're looking at probably a 2 overall, simply because um, there's so little detail, so little meat. It's all bone. There's a lot of bone, but there's no meat on those bones. We need to have a bit more to convince the reader that this was worth reading as a review. You come away thinking, and the number one convention of this genre, the number one convention of the review genre, is that you come away knowing enough about the thing to make a decision about it. I've learned almost nothing about the film by reading this review, and that's the biggest problem here. And that's what knocks communicative achievement right down. I need to have enough information here to be able to make a decision for whether or not to watch the film. In terms of organization, it's kind of it's, it's a little bit difficult to say. Each paragraph introduces a point and develops it, but you take a long time to get to the description of what the film's about. It's half of the text before you have to get through half of all of this before we even know what the plot is, and even then we don't. So that's an organizational problem. You've got to order the information that you present to the reader so that the text is coherent, and this isn't really coherent. I'm reading and reading and reading and reading. I'm still waiting to find out what the film is about. It's about ambition, okay, achieving your dreams, okay, but tell me that later. So that's a bit of a problem there. There are some good elements of organization within the text, but the fact that the text as a whole is not organized well is a problem. And then that brings us to language. Where should we start? My interest in educational and inspirational movies caused me to watch. We wouldn't choose that. Maybe led me to watch, or led me to considering this, I don't know, as a way of reawakening my motivation for achieving my aspirations in life. That's a lot of words for what it is. You only know that it's going to reawaken your motivation. Do you reawaken your motivation? You're only going to know that once you've seen it. So it's not like I'm going to watch this to reawaken my motivation. Watch it first, and then you find out if it does or doesn't. I like this since motivation is fleeting. Yes, very much so. You needed something to rejuvenate it. Okay. Had you lost it? Okay, well, I see. But then you're repeating yourself. Choosing exactly this film made me thank myself a million times. There's a lot to unpack there. Choosing exactly this film made me thank myself a million times in a view of the fact that it really helped me change my behavior towards my responsibilities. You have to do a lot of work as the reader to be able to unpack that sentence and to know what you mean. And I'm not 100% certain that I do. Everyday activities suck out the life in us sometimes. Maybe suck the life out of us. You don't want to suck out and then in. It's a bit of a mix up of communications there. We forget what drives us and immerse ourselves in responsibilities which don't bring us happiness or satisfaction. You're absolutely right. I find myself spending time in the kitchen washing up. But if I didn't do that if I didn't engage in that responsibility, um, well, what would happen in the kitchen? And more broadly, I enjoy teaching, but there are days when I wish that I could just go to a cafe and read a book all day. So that would bring me happiness and satisfaction. But teaching is my responsibility. It's what, it's my profession. It pays the bills. So not sure I agree with the point or the way that it's expressed. Not seldom we find. So not seldom is a negative adverb. So we need not seldom do we find ourselves fulfilling someone else's ambition, feeling dissatisfied. Yeah, okay. So you've got some good ideas here. You have got some good ideas here. But the problem throughout here is that, by the way, is it real film? You can do it. I don't know if it's a real film or not. The biggest problem here is that you've written from your heart, not from your head. You've written as somebody would write who is powerfully moved by a text, be it written like a book, audible or audio like a song, or in this case, visual or audio visual. So it's a film. You've written from the perspective of someone who has really engaged with that text, so much so that you just can't wait to get the words out. But you have to wait. You have to think. It moved me. But I met and interacted with that text first. Then I thought about it. It worked its magic on me over time. The person reading this review has not gone through that. They did not see the film. They do not know the film. So you need to communicate some of that first. You need to be careful before you go straight in with these first two paragraphs, because those two paragraphs are the result of watching the film on you. It's how it changed you. It's not going to change us in the same way. It won't have that same impact. Other things in terms of the choice of language I've kind of looked at throughout. There are, what is a discrepancy between men and women? Do you mean the difference? Women empowerment, so the empowerment of women in this last paragraph, okay, should be one of our priorities. Okay, since the misogyny is not completely wiped out from the face of Earth. Okay, again, I kind of get the idea, but there's a lot that needs to be done to fix that sentence. So this is going to sound harsh, but I'm going to go for a 1 going up to a 2 for the language. There are things here that do need a lot of attention. So what have we learned from this text, from this review? Reviews are difficult to write. And I think what we've got here is an example of the curse of knowledge. Have you heard that expression, the curse of knowledge? So the curse of knowledge, broadly speaking, is that once you know something, it's almost impossible to imagine not knowing it. And when you see something like a really good film, it's almost impossible to imagine yourself before you saw the film and what it's like to see that film and the changes that took place in you as a result of watching that film. It's difficult to access these things, but you need to know how to access them so that you can write a review to convince other people that the film is worth watching. And you have to start with the basics. The rubric is there as a guide. What was it about? We've got 321 words here, and they don't tell us what the film was about. Start there and build from that point, from that platform. The rest of it, what made it so good, well, forget about the sound effects, forget about the dramatic plot twists. What made it so good is basically what you've got in the first 2 paragraphs. You just need to move it later. You need to reword it to get rid of some of the clumsy language. But okay, put that aside. If you put that as the reason why it was so good, then you might start convincing people. Why should we include it in the set of DVDs? Take that misogyny point, the fact that, women are still struggling for their place in the world against men who don't want to give up their place in the world. Say that other films don't really approach this subject in the right fashion. And that's why this film needs to be included in that set. So you've got some of the ideas, but you need to be more sensitive to the reader. The reader doesn't know anything yet. You know everything. The process of communication is not easy, but it's important that you make an attempt. And on that point, we will finish for today. Thank you very much and goodbye.